Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Meet today's guest, a force of nature who transformed personal trauma into global triumph. She's an award-winning international speaker, best-selling author, and a resident psychiatrist. She's celebrated worldwide for her expertise in resilient leadership and inclusive wellness. But her story goes even deeper. Once a child bride trapped in an abusive arranged marriage, she bravely escaped to empower not only herself, but her daughters as well. Her powerful journey is chronicled in the memoir, A Good Wife, Escaping the Life I Never Chose. I'd like to welcome back Dr. Samra Zafar, author of Unconditional, Breaking Through Past Limits to Transform Your Future. Dr. Zafar, welcome back to Empowered. So great to see you. And congratulations, because I know the last time you were here, you were working so hard. And you were at school, I believe.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me back. It's so great to see you. And yes, last time we chatted, I was in medical school and I graduated since then. And now I'm in my residency as a psychiatrist. It's hard to believe, but, finally made it.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I am so happy for you. And I think most women will be extremely happy for you as well, because you're going to be out there helping them all. So let's just dive right in. Let's talk about everything that you've been through. What was the single most transformative moment in your journey of unlearning limiting beliefs? And how did you shape the book's message?
There have been so many moments, so it's hard to pick one. But if I were to think back, particularly to your question about unlearning something that was holding me back, it actually came when I was wrapping up the first book. So my publisher, my editor at HarperCollins, sent me the cover of my first book. And if you can see behind me, it's right there. It was my wedding picture. So I was 16, 17 years old at that time. And she said to me, this is such a great cover. It's powerful. And I remember looking at it and I'm like, that's not what I want on the cover. I don't want that naive, weak version of me who was forced into marriage, who didn't have a voice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I realized that where that feeling is coming from is internalized shame. I was blaming my younger self for what I went through. And I said, no, I don't want her on that cover. I want this person, this powerful version of me that was in Toronto Life magazine and who's now an author. Um, and my editor said, take a few days, sit with it, and we'll talk after that. So coincidentally, that same day or the next day, I was delivering a speech to a high school graduation in Quebec. And I went up and did my speech about, being yourself and loving yourself and all of that to these 16, 17-year-olds. And as they were coming up on stage and giving me high fives and getting their diplomas, I started to ask myself, if what happened to me at that age happens to any of them, would I be ashamed of them? Would I not want to celebrate them? Would I love them any less? Would I be any less proud of them? And the answer was no, I wouldn't. So why am I feeling that way about myself? And that night, I went back to my hotel room after that event and my talk, and I pulled out the picture that my editor had sent me, which was a picture of the cover. And I looked at that younger version of me on that cover, and all I kept saying for an hour or so was, thank you. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for fighting when everybody was against you. Thank you for believing in those dreams, because if you hadn't done that, I would not even exist. And that shame transformed into so much love and gratitude for my younger self. And it healed me. That one was one of the most powerful healing moments in my life, that what happened to me was not my fault.
No.
And I called my editor and said to her that if it's between me and her, she deserves to be on the cover of that book.
And hold that thought because we will be right back with more. So please don't go away. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's discussion, unlearning is the key to setting yourself free. Samra, before we went to the commercial break, you had said she deserves to be on the cover of the book. And you were talking about your publisher, correct?
Yes.
So I love the fact that you were talking about the fact that you loved yourself, because that seems to be a theme that has been going on through a lot of the shows on Empowered. I read your first book, The Good Wife, A Good Wife. How did your personal experiences with trauma and healing influence the strategies you just shared in the book? Because you talked about the choosing the picture and what you went through.
I was, when I left my marriage and after getting some of my education and getting the courage to leave, I thought at that time that my biggest journey would be to learn the skills that I needed to move forward with my life, like how to pay my bills, how to find a job, how to fill gas in my car, how to network, all these things that were so alien and foreign to me. But what I've realized over the course of my life since I left my marriage was that my biggest journey has not been to learn new things. Yes, those were challenges I faced, but I was able to learn things pretty quickly. My biggest journey and challenge was to unlearn the things that I grew up with, the things that were internalized, the messages that I had ingrained in me from such a young age about my capabilities, my place as a woman, what I'm capable of, how to parent, what does faith mean to me. All these things that were instilled in me and my subconscious that were holding me back and still keeping me trapped, even though I was out of it. And that is what informed the journey of writing Unconditional, that as a lot of us, especially as women, we grow up surrounded by these limiting beliefs that are instilled in us through all kinds of societal structures. And our biggest journey is to unlearn all of that, uncondition ourselves we can be free to be our authentic selves and just that have that radical self-acceptance and self-love.
So I come from a Balkan background, and I was raised with, what will the people say? What will our neighbors say? And, you can't do that. And every other thing. In what ways do cultural, societal, or familial expectations reinforce the limits we place on ourselves? And how can we actually change them?
So, when we're born as kids, we don't have any of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
If we are born pure as who we are on the inside, but as we grow up, we learn that don't be too confident, don't be too assertive, talk loudly but not so loudly, be uh ambitious but not so much that you come across as arrogant. It's okay to talk about your accomplishments but don't brag about them. Like, we have all these very conflicting messages that society, family, career, culture, religion, all of those things place on us, like what you just said, um, just all these things, right? So, what happens then? We grow up almost becoming different versions of ourselves in different types of societal structures. What that subliminally teaches us is that who we are is not okay, who we are is not enough. And being accepted and loved for who we are is actually a very fundamental need as a human being. It lives, it's in our psyche. It's a biological need we have. And also the other need is to be attached to other people, is to have connection. But when we grow up with these messages, attachment and authenticity, both of those needs are at odds with each other. So if I'm authentic, I will lose people. They will not accept me. So if I want to hang on to those connections, I have to be a version of myself instead of actually myself. And that creates havoc on our nervous systems as we move through life. It doesn't show up right away, but then when we grow up like that and over the years, over the decades, we start living with all kinds of anxiety, depression, imposter syndrome, feeling inadequate, feeling like we're living someone else's life. So, in order to free ourselves, we actually need to unlearn these things and uncondition ourselves.
And that's the thing. I mean, that's a very hard thing that we have to all go through. And I'm wondering, just listening to you right now, I've had people say to me, you're like an onion. There are so many
Hmm.
layers to you. And every time
Absolutely.
I try to get closer to you, there's a different layer of an onion that I have to get through. And I'm just wondering whether this is part of the intergenerational trauma that we've all had. I want to talk about that when we come back. So please don't go away. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's discussion, unlearning is the key to setting yourself free. Now, Dr. Zafar, before we went to break, I was talking about that whole onion layer thing. We've all had some type of intergenerational trauma. What was the hardest belief or pattern from your upbringing that you had to unlearn? And how did you begin that process?
I think for me, the most profound one, as well as the hardest one, has been how to parent my daughters in a different way than I was parented.
Mhm.
And I grew up in an extremely religious, conservative, patriarchal, homophobic environment. My daughters are both queer, and I wanted to be the mom that they deserve. I wanted to be the mom that helps them feel like they can be completely authentic and themselves. I had the best of intentions and I had no idea how because it was never modeled for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to learn how to. And also, because of the way I was parented, which was very much with guilt and shame and fear, I found myself sometimes subconsciously acting that way. Like my daughter was going through some challenges in her teens. And when she would, you know, talk to me about it, I would feel attacked and then get defensive that I did all this for you. Why are you attacking me? And she's like, Mom, I'm not attacking you. I'm trying to explain to you how I feel. And I would say, well, when I was your age, I was married and I had a kid. She's like, yeah, just because you had different problems, Mom, doesn't mean my problems aren't valid. And that was a big wake up call for me that why am I projecting my insecurities and fears and defensiveness onto my children? It was a hard pill to swallow, right? But when that realization came, also came that responsibility. I want to do a better job. And I am a great mom, but there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. And I made sure I went to therapy and did my work. And, when my daughter started dating, I wanted to talk to her in a way that she could feel safe. But I had never dated before. I was married when I was 16
Yeah.
to a man I'd never met before. So I had no idea, right? So all those things were so new to me, but I wanted to do the best. I wanted to be the mom that they deserve. So I had to learn. And I had to develop those skills on my own and with them. And I would often say to my daughters, if I'm saying something that doesn't land right, please tell me. And when they would tell me, it's my job then, instead of getting defensive, to actually open that space, hear them out, and do my work because I was doing my best. And as I learned better, I did better.
And you know what? You talked about that in the book as well. Like you talk about it and the fact that you were trying to protect them from certain things and you're actually hindering them because you were trying to protect them. And even though
Yeah.
you were trying to do such a good job, like everybody else, everyone tries to be a really good person and tries to do the best. And sometimes we just don't. And we kind of have to give ourselves some slack sometimes because none of us are perfect.
Absolutely. And especially when it comes to parenting, all of us are trying to do our best. However, and to be honest, we are doing our best. But that doesn't mean that there's no room for growth. In fact, there's always room for growth. And doing our best also requires us to be humble and requires us to hold that space of vulnerability. And when our loved ones or our children or our colleagues or whoever it is we're interacting with point something out to us where we can grow, it's first of all, it's important to ask yourself, does this person have my best interests at heart? Because one of my rules is do not accept criticism from somebody you would not turn to for advice. So if this is somebody you trust, then yes, take that and use that as a way to make yourself better. But if it is somebody that you do not trust or somebody that you do not have confidence in, and you will not go to them for advice, like when my mother criticizes me, nah, I'm not going to take that, right? Because she can't give me parenting advice after what she did to me. But when my daughters tell me something that, Mom, this didn't land for us the right way, and yes, absolutely 100%, I'm going to listen and I'm going to do a better job.
And you're so transparent and vulnerable in this book too, because everything that you've just discussed, you actually talk about in the book in detail. We do
Because a
have,
lot of us are going through it,
well,
and I truly
but we're
believe in
all,
stories, not in
yeah,
universality.
agreed. I mean, and we've all been through it. I mean, Canada, it was built upon immigrants, so we all go through this. So please don't go away. We'll be right back. We've got one more segment, and I know it's going to be riveting. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's discussion, unlearning is the key to setting yourself free. I'm joined by Dr. Samra Zafar, author of Unconditional. Now, I just want to ask one more intergenerational thing. Do you believe that the intergenerational trauma is masked as chronic anxiety?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And it's not just my belief. Research shows that. And a lot of our work as psychiatrists is to help our patients understand their own inner world and their own inner experience, which is very much informed by the experiences that they went through and also the experiences that their ancestors went through and their families went through. I see this in patients every single day. That when you are living with unhealed trauma, when you have not been able to understand yourself, where do your reactions come from, etc., over time, that manifests as chronic anxiety, depression, all kinds of mental health issues. So it's there is a host of research that validates that.
Okay, so, your book is called Unconditional. How do you define living unconditionally? And what does that look like in everyday life?
So to me, living unconditionally is not having to choose between being yourself and being loved. That's it, as simple as I can put it.
Okay, well,
And
I love that.
yeah, because it should not be this versus that. It should be this and that. It should be attachment and authenticity together. I am loved for who I am by others, but most importantly, by myself. And that is unconditional life. That is unconditional being because you are not putting armors and masks and being different versions of yourself in order to feel like you belong, like you're included, like you're loved. And that requires a few things. First of all, it requires our inner work of healing, of understanding ourselves, of being compassionate to ourselves. And then it requires our outer work. And that means surrounding ourselves with people who accept us and love us for who we are, not who we are supposed to be in the eyes of some societal box, but for who we are. And that requires choosing intentionally who are the people I'm going to include in my life. And then also, who are the people I'm going to exclude and build boundaries with? And that can be very painful. And that is, I think, the biggest journey and the most painful thing we experience because oftentimes the people we want most to love us don't love us for who we are.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that with my mother. I've experienced that with a lot of my family members that I've had to draw very firm boundaries with them and even cut a lot of them out of my life. And however, the beauty of life, and I think the beauty of Canada in particular, is that you can build your own chosen family. And I am very blessed to have many people in my life who have become my family, even though we're not related by DNA or blood or any of that. And that is what I consider my community. And in front of those people, I can be completely myself. I can be completely unconditional. And again, like I said, I continue to do my inner work to also love myself the same way.
And the thing too is you get to choose that family, right? You're not born into them or married into them. These are people that you've chosen to be a part of your life and help uplift you. We have about 40 seconds left. Famous last words to help other people, other Canadians that have come from different countries.
I think what I would say is believe in your own power and in your own worth. There will be a lot of people who will tell you otherwise, who will tell you to do this, to do that, to that you don't belong for who you are, etc. Do not do not take criticism or accept criticism from people you wouldn't turn to for advice, from people you don't trust, from people that don't have your best interests at heart. And the other thing is when somebody is telling you that you cannot do something, they're not showing you your limits, they're showing you their limits. And it's up to you what you choose to accept and what you choose to reject.
Dr. Samra Zafar, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Zafar says some of the greatest insights came up when you give yourself the time and opportunity to connect with your own thoughts and feelings. When we tap into it and trust our intuition, we find the answers we're looking for and the ones that were there all along. Bye for now.